families. If you are watching this, it means that you're committed to supporting your child's growth as a writer, and we're grateful to partner with you in that work. We know how important it is for children to feel confident as writers, and that many students find writing to be challenging, especially in the upper primary grades, where the writing demands increase in terms of depth of ideas that they're expected to explain, the organization needed to make their thinking clear, and the level of detail required to support their points effectively. We also know that writing grows even faster when home and school work together. So in this video, our teachers, Mrs. D'Angelo and Mrs. Pricken, will walk you through a very simple graphic organizer called ICE-T that helps students plan for writing with clarity and purpose. You will see how each part of ICE-T guides children to think about their main idea, support it with clear evidence, and add thoughtful comments, and then finally bring everything together with a strong conclusion. Mrs. D'Angelo and Mrs. Pricken will also share specific questions that you can ask at home to help your children think more deeply, organize their thoughts, and communicate more effectively. So I want to thank you for taking time to watch and learn how to support your child as they grow as writers. We appreciate your partnership, and we hope this video gives you quick, practical tools you can use right away to help your child grow in confidence and capability as a writer.
Hi, I'm Robin D'Angelo, and I'd like to take a minute today to talk to you about the sweet way of planning, the ICE-T method. The ICE-T wasn't created in a conference room or copied out of a textbook. It was born in my classroom over a 2-year span when I was analyzing student work and looking for a tool that truly clicked with my kids. When I looked at my student writing and assessment data, I kept thinking, my kids have great ideas, but they don't have a roadmap or a plan for those ideas. So I broke writing down into a fun acronym, which is the sweet way of planning, the ICE-T method. Every strong response truly needs to introduce, I, C, cite, E, explain, and T, tie back. Something clear, it was something simple, and it was something that kids could actually use in my classroom. An additional why that I felt the need for the ICE-T to be implemented in my classroom was from all the years that I was teaching in middle school. I knew exactly what standards and benchmarks and structures students needed by the time they were in 7th and 8th grade. And I wanted to bring that level of readiness down to the elementary school in a fun, doable, and transferable way. During the last years of putting the ICE-T into practice in my classroom, Ms. Nostrom and I sat for hours looking at samples of data, analyzing patterns, and asking, how do we take this simple ICE-T planning and add to it so it supports students to think critically with a deeper depth of knowledge? And that's where we came with the yummier layer, the Make it your own. What does it mean? And why does it matter? This transformed the ICE-T formula from a plan to real thinking. It pushed students beyond steps and into true depth of knowledge. When I brought the ICE-T plus that into my classroom, everything changed. Students had a starting point, yes, with the ICE-T, but they also had a pathway now into a voice, a purpose, and confidence. It spread across the entire 3rd grade. My colleagues and I built strategy groups, personalized pathways, and with the support of AI, we use data to drive precise instruction. And now that I've looped into 4th grade from 3rd grade, I'm seeing the long-term impact. These students remember, they apply. They're doing double ICE-Ts, even triple ICE-Ts, because the structure stuck and grew with them. It's simple for beginners, deep for advanced writers, and flexible enough to carry students from elementary school all the way through middle school and beyond. I wanted writing to be fun, transferable, and empowering. And seeing my students confidently use it year after year reminds me exactly why this matters. And that it is why we are here today to teach you the structure, the purpose, and the real impact behind the iced tea so you can help at home empower your own children.
And what I like most about this strategy is it isn't something that you can just go ahead and quickly Google. It was created by teachers who were analyzing real student work and identifying exactly what the students needed to grow. And the results really did speak for themselves because you can't argue with the data. Last year, 15 of our third graders earned a perfect score of 850 on the state assessment, and their confidence as writers truly bloomed. And that is what inspired us the most. For example, here are two science tests. One is an example from last year. At the beginning of the year, there, as you can see, there was just a short surface level response. The second response that you're seeing here was at the beginning of fourth grade for this same student after a full year of the iced tea instruction, where this same student produced a detailed text-based explanation with clear reasoning and elaboration. And again, this wasn't a writing assignment, it was a science test. So for us, that was evidence that the writing techniques that we were teaching weren't just being applied during writing time when we told kids it's time to write an essay. It was being applied across the curriculum. Every time the student picked up the pencil to write, the writing structure was embedded and they were able to apply it across content areas. So this truly showed that implementing iced tea didn't just improve writing, it transferred across subjects and built real confidence.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Perkin. Like Mrs. D'Angelo had said, our goal today is to take a look at the iced tea writing. So this is to learn a strategy from our district's curriculum for literary analysis. Before we begin, let's talk about what that means. Literary analysis is when we think carefully and deeply about a story. We don't just read it. We try to understand the message, learn about the characters and their actions, and think about why the author wrote the story the way they did. When we do literary analysis, we become detectives. We look for clues in the text, the words, the actions, the events, and we use those clues to explain our thinking. We don't guess, we use evidence. This strategy will help us understand stories in a deeper way, explain our thoughts clearly, use text evidence to support our ideas, and become stronger writers and readers.
The iced tea is a writing structure that helps students analyze a topic clearly and confidently. It gives them a step-by-step guide or a plan so they always know what to write next. And here's how it works. The I, introduce your idea. This is the student's main point. For example, the theme, the character trait, or the answer to the question. C, cite. Students find the exact sentence from the text and copy it word for word. And coming from second grade into third grade, that is not a standard from second grade. So they truly need to learn how to cite the exact words from their text evidence into their response. So the C is super important and a standard that we actually start teaching in third grade, and it is a new standard to them and for them to learn in third grade. So the C is super important for that dialogue to be added. They also say where they found it, what page number or paragraph. This teaches them to go back into the text and prove their thinking. The E is to explain their evidence. Students explain what the quote means using simple sentence starters or stems such as this shows, or this means, or this proves. This helps them think deeper and make their ideas clearer. The T, tie it back. Students connect everything back to their original idea, which is the I, so their writing feels complete. They restate their point and show how the evidence supports it. And that's also a hard skill coming into third grade or starting these responses, to use that I and restate it for the T. Students connect everything back to their original idea, and it's a seamless response. The iced tea removes the I don't know what to write stress and gives the students the clear starting point. It builds confidence, improves clarity, and works across every subject: reading, writing, science, and even math. And while it may feel a little formulaic at first, that structure is actually what builds the confidence. It gives students a rule to follow, just like clear directions you see in a board game. Once students know the rules, they can start playing with the strategy, the creativity, and the voice.
The sweet way of writing can help us in a lot of ways. So it helps with planning using a graphic organizer for writing, which helps to find text evidence when the students are writing about their reading. At first, the students should be using the sentence starters that we're giving them because it helps to build that confidence and a foundation. And it definitely helps with reading comprehension and building the students' depth of knowledge. Today, we are going to read a short story and then practice writing an example iced tea response together. Our I statement will be the theme is friendship. Remember, iced tea stands for introduce, cite evidence, explain, and tie it back together. First, let's read our story. The missing lunch. At lunchtime, Emma opened her backpack and gasped. Her lunch was gone. She looked around the classroom, trying not to cry. Did you lose something? Asked her friend Carlos. My lunch, Emma said softly. I must have left it on the bus. Carlos thought for a moment, then smiled. You can share mine. I have a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. We can split them. Emma's face brightened. Really? Thanks, Carlos. They sat together, sharing food and laughing at each other's jokes. Emma realized that even though she didn't have her lunch, she had something better, a good friend. Now that we've read this story, we're going to model an iced tea response. We will start by writing the I, our introduce statement. Our statement is going to tell about the theme of the story. The theme is friendship. Next, we're going to support that idea with a piece of text evidence. So we're going to look back to the story and find an exact sentence that helps to support the theme is friendship. When we look back in the story, we can see that the one example from the story that helps to support the theme of friendship is Carlos thought for a moment, then smiled. You can share mine. I have a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. We can split them.
So as we're writing the C, which is supporting our I, we want to remember that we want to write the story name. So I know this because as our sentence starter in the story, The Missing Lunch, comma, it states, comma, quote, because it's super important that you take it directly from the actual story dialogue. Carlos thought for a minute, then smiled. You can share mine. I have a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. We can split them.
The next thing that we want to move on to is the E, which is explaining the text evidence. So we want to explain how that piece of text evidence from the story supports our I, which is the theme is friendship. So this means Carlos cares about Emma and wants to help her when she's upset.
And here with the E, you can use this means, this shows, or this proves for a variation.
The final part of iced tea is the thoughts. So the students are wrapping up their thinking and tying it all together. We give the students a transition word of in conclusion to start their final sentence. So, in conclusion, the missing lunch teaches that friendship is shown through kindness and caring for others when they need help.
And a fun trick that I do with my students in school is I take whatever the I is, for example, friendship, which would be the theme for this model. And I tell them to turn their paper over and think of all words related to friendship, such as kindness, caring, because once they do this T in conclusion, they have other words to pull from that are related to the theme word or the character trait word that you're talking about and you're trying to prove. And this way your response and your plan does not become repetitive because they have other words related to that word to pull from. Once students learn the basic iced tea structure, we layer in to make it even yummier, to push their thinking further. This is where students grow from simply answering to truly understanding and explaining. The M, make it your own. Students restate the idea in their own words. This shows true comprehension and keeps them from copying or guessing. Second M, what does it mean? Students explain the meaning behind their quote or evidence. Here they begin interpreting, not just pulling text, but showing what the author is trying to say. The third M, why does it matter? This is the most important part. This is where the depth of knowledge happens. When students explain why their idea actually matters to the story, they begin to understand bigger themes, analyze character growth, connect moments across the text, and most importantly, find their own writer's voice. This step transforms their writing from surface level to thoughtful and powerful. It forces students to think beyond the plot and into the meaning of the story. The why does this matter step is where students begin to elaborate, reason, and show what they truly understand about the text based on their reading comprehension and how well they know the characters and events and the themes.
Here's our example of our starting iced tea, where we have our I, introduce, C, cite evidence, E, explain the evidence, and T, add our thoughts and wrap up our thinking. Now that Mrs. D'Angelo explained the part to make it yummier writing, we can see how we can take the E and stretch it into deeper thinking. So making it your own is putting the text evidence in your own words. So Carlos wanted to help Emma by sharing his food when she didn't have any lunch. What does this mean? This is very similar to the E that the students are already used to doing, using the sentence starter of this means, this shows, this proves. In this case, this means that friends care about each other and show kindness. And the most important part, why does this matter? We give the students the sentence starter of this matters because. It helps them to have a starting point for their thinking. This matters to the theme of friendship because helping others makes people feel happy and helps friendships grow stronger. Here we have both of our examples that we just created side by side so that you can see how much the students' ideas grow and it shows a deeper understanding of the story. So on the left, we have the basic iced tea, ICET, and on the right, we have the iced tea, but the E stretched into our MMM. If you would like, at this point of this video, you can pause and try this out on your own. So here's the exact same story, the missing lunch, but we changed the I a little. So the I now is related to a character trait instead of the theme of the story. So the I for this example is Carlos is kind. So on your own, you can go into the story and find a piece of text evidence that supports why Carlos is kind and use the sentence starter of in the story, the missing lunch, it says, and find the piece of text evidence that supports the I. Next, you can go in and either do just a basic E, which this means, or try out an MMM. Try out adding making it your own. What does this mean? And why does this matter? And then finally, tie up all your thoughts with the T. Another strategy for practicing working with texts and using this iced tea method is working backward. So, what we do with the students is we give them an iced tea response. We give them it all typed out for them. And what they need to do is go in and highlight or underline each part of the iced tea model. This helps students to really take their time to think what each part of this paragraph is telling them. On the left side, we have an iced tea response for the story Jabari Jumps. And on the right side, we have the exact same iced tea response, but with each part of the iced tea, the I, the C, the E, and the T, highlighted to show each of the parts within that response.
So this structure of iced tea is the starting point where we start our sweet way of writing. However, you can expand on this to make it even sweeter. And as you become a more fluent writer and want to add different paragraphs within your writing, you can certainly continue to double the iced tea, the CE and the CE, in order to expand your writing for even additional paragraphs within your writing. So we start with the structure, but we can always expand it for a more elaborated piece of writing.
Using the iced tea graphic organizer helps you as parents guide your children. So you can ask them questions like, can you put this into your own words and make it your own? What does it mean? Why does it matter? How does all of this connect to what you already know? These kinds of questions support writing, but really they're just comprehension questions that help students build understanding before they ever put pencil to paper. So, by talking with your children and asking these questions as they read, or maybe as they're getting ready to complete their reading response jots that they're often assigned for homework, this will strengthen their comprehension and ensure that they have meaningful ideas to draw from when they begin to write. So, as a parent, you can strengthen their comprehension skills by engaging your children in conversations about what they're reading. So I hope that you found this helpful. I'd like to give a big thank you to our teachers, Mrs. D'Angelo and Mrs. Pricken, for sharing their expertise with our parent community. And thank you, parents, for partnering with us in this important work. We appreciate your taking the time to learn with us.